He was not gonna let us lose. The way he prepared the whole year for it, he hated Miami. He hated LeBron, Wade, Bosh. He's never gonna say that, but he couldn't stand it.
Dallas Mavericks and NBA legend Dirk Nowitzki had to keep it real. He's a Hall of Famer now, so why not? He didn't fake rivalries. If a name stuck with him, it came from years of collisions, playoff pressure, and something that crossed the line. These 7 opponents earned a place on his list for specific reasons he never forgot. We're starting with LeBron James. The record begins with basketball and turns on respect. In June 2011, Dallas met Miami in the finals, and LeBron stood on the other side of everything Dirk wanted. The Heat were favored. Dallas had scars and a plan. For Nowitzki, this was the last and best chance to close the loop on a career built on skill, patience, and stubbornness. Then came the hallway. Before Game 5 in Dallas, cameras caught LeBron and Dwayne Wade fake coughing and laughing about Dirk's illness. Nowitzki was playing through a fever and a torn tendon in his finger. The video landed like a slap.
Oh, did y'all hear me cough? I think I'm sick.
After the game, Dirk called the behavior childish and ignorant. He did not shout. He did not grandstand. He made the point once and returned to work. The message was simple: respect the game. That night, Dallas took control of the series. The Mavericks leaned on the same formula that had carried them through Portland, the Lakers, and Oklahoma City. They mixed zone and man to flatten drives, kept help ready on the second step, and trusted length to scramble. On offense, they spaced the floor so that every Dirk catch forced a decision. If single coverage stayed home, he rose into one-legged fades and free throws. If help came, Jason Terry, J.J. Barea, and Jason Kidd punished rotations. It was not a secret. It was execution at speed. LeBron felt that vice all series. He saw 2 on the catch, gaps that evaporated, and closeouts that turned pull-ups into passes. Game 4 in Miami became the turning point. Dallas erased a fourth-quarter deficit, while Nowitzki, sick and gasping, kept finding answers late. He finished the night with a left-handed layup that quieted the building. The Mavericks tied the series and reset the leverage that the hallway clip had just put under a floodlight.
That gave him a little bit extra that he didn't need, but it gave him a little extra to finish him off.
Game 5 brought the best version of the blueprint. Dallas hit threes and lived with the math of contested twos on the other end. Nowitzki missed early and refused to flinch. He drew fouls, moved the ball, and let Terry and Barea ride hot hands. LeBron's line hovered without the punch that his teams usually needed in those moments. When the horn sounded, Dallas led 3-2 with one more flight to Miami. Game 6 finished it. Miami made runs. Dirk answered with work that looked identical every time. Mid-post face-ups, shot fake, one dribble, step through, one-legged fades that no contest could touch. A straight line drive to his right for 2 points that settled nerves. He did not race the moment. He solved it. When it ended, he walked to the tunnel before the trophy presentation, sat alone, and let the weight leave his shoulders in private. Finals MVP followed because there was nothing left to argue. The fallout lasted. The cough clip stuck to LeBron and Wade for years. Dirk never chased headlines about it, but he held the line on respect. He said again later that the mocking was out of bounds and that they were not close in the years after. Time softened it. Both sides later admitted it was immature. The basketball result never changed. Dallas beat a favored super team by playing smarter, tougher, and more together at every hinge point. For Nowitzki, that is where the emotion lived, but we're not stopping at LeBron. Let's talk about his Miami co-star, Dwayne Wade.
What happened in the Mav series? Y'all better.
The heat with Wade started before Miami's super team era. Dallas still carried the 2006 scar, when Wade's downhill bursts, foul pressure, and mid-post poise swung a finals and stuck to Dirk's name for years. That history framed everything that came later. When the bracket delivered Dallas-Miami in 2011, Dirk wasn't just chasing a ring, he was chasing closure. Then came the cough incident we talked about earlier. It added fuel to something that was already personal for Dallas fans and quietly personal for Dirk. He called it childish and ignorant, then kept his focus on the series. The point for him wasn't noise, it was respect. And respect, in his book, is proven by how you play. On the floor, Wade stressed Dallas in a different way than LeBron. He turned live ball steals into layups before you could set a wall. He pocket passed from guard spots to force help, then attacked the gap he created. He punished soft closeouts with pump and go drives and got to his right-hand glass finishes when a possession bogged down. Those actions punish hesitation. Dallas answered with poise. If Wade sped the game up, Dirk slowed it back down. Shot fake, balance, one dribble, foul drawn. Catch at 17 feet, feel the body, step through to the open space. It wasn't flash, it was control, and control is how you diffuse a sprinter. What kept the edge sharp was the human part. Dirk later said he and Wade weren't friends for a stretch after 2011. He didn't make a show of it, he just drew a line. Respect the work. If you cross it, he remembers. That distance lasted long enough to matter, which tells you the cough moment struck a nerve already exposed by 2006. Time cooled it. Wade called the hallway stuff immature. Dirk agreed that it was unnecessary and moved the conversation back to the basketball. Two all-time competitors can admit a misstep and still keep their standards. That is where they met years later, on respect, not warmth. The next player is probably Dirk's biggest silent rival, and that's Tim Duncan.
50 on the button for Tim Duncan.
Call this one the apprenticeship that never really ended. Dirk kept running into San Antonio, kept seeing the same number 21 waiting in the paint, and kept having to level up. He has admitted it out loud. He used to hate the Spurs. Not the people, the problem. They were always ready, always clean, always in the way. Start at the beginning. In 2001, the Spurs bottled Dallas. The Mavericks were talented, still green, still learning how slow playoff basketball can feel when a great defense decides to remove your first option. 2 years later, Dallas reached the conference finals, Dirk hurt his knee, and the Spurs finished the job and won the title. Lessons, not trophies. Everything flipped in 2006. That second round is a Texas classic. 7 games, no shortcuts. Tim punished mistakes inside. Dirk answered by living at 15 to 18 feet, reading hips, and punishing any late help. Game 7 in San Antonio gave the rivalry its snapshot. Dallas trailed by 3 inside the final half minute. Dirk caught, drove left, took the bump, and banked it home for the and one that pushed it to overtime. The Mavericks closed. For the first time in that era, Dallas solved San Antonio when it counted. The pendulum kept moving. In 2009, Dallas handled the Spurs quickly in the first round, a series where Dirk's patience against quick digs opened easy shots for everyone else. In 2010, a 7-seed Spurs group punched back and eliminated the 2-seed Mavericks, proof that the matchup never cared much for seeding. By 2014, both stars were older, both smarter, and both still dangerous. Dallas pushed the eventual champions to a Game 7. Even in defeat, that said plenty about how these teams brought the best out of each other. On the floor, this was a chessboard, not a shouting match. Duncan won his space early, guarded vertically, and forced bigs to take uncomfortable angles. He rarely chased blocks, he erased windows. Dirk created new ones. Catch jab, one dribble, rise. If help shaded middle, he spun baseline. If a smaller defender switched onto him, he backed him down without drama and rose over the top. San Antonio tried length on the perimeter, quick digs from the nail, and late switches. Dallas answered by trusting the extra pass when the double came a beat earlier than expected. Popovich's half-court plans treated Dirk like a full-time problem, not a shooter to be run off the line. The respect was obvious in the way the Spur defense tilted whenever he caught the ball. The inverse was true as well. Dallas never went into a Spurs series without a plan for Duncan's patience. He did not rush. He pivoted, found a shoulder, and finished. If the first look was gone, he kicked to Parker or Manu and then reposted. The games became long arguments about angles and timing. The personal tone changed with time. During Hall of Fame weekend, Dirk laughed and said he used to hate the Spurs because they felt like a big brother who kept winning the driveway games. In the next breath, he pointed to mutual respect. That tracks with the footage. No cheap shots, no sound bites that drowned the basketball, just two all-time greats forcing each other to be exact. If you are mapping the opponents who hardened Dirk, Duncan is the constant. The scoreboard swung both ways. The takeaways rarely did. Precision matters. Patience wins. And if you want to climb, you have to beat the team that keeps turning you back. For years, that team wore black and silver, and the center of it all was Tim Duncan. Here's where the tone changes from chess to bark. After Duncan, the next name brought noise, and that name is Kevin Garnett.
And Dirk averaged 30 and 15 on KG.
Wow.
This is the one Dirk has called his first real rivalry. Young Dirk met young KG in the Central Division days, and the mix was volatile from the jump. Garnett talked. A lot. He needled, clapped in faces, and tried to push you off your spots with words before he ever put a forearm on your shoulder. Dirk was quieter then. He let comments slide, kept his eyes on the rim, and tried to win with skill alone. That approach lasted until the first time he snapped back. The moment lives in Dallas lore. Minnesota was in town. Garnett had been in his ear all night. At some point, Dirk put him on the floor, stared, and finally uncorked it. "Get your up. We ain't through kicking your ass." It was not a speech. It was a switch. From then on, the talk ran both ways, and the respect started to grow. KG likes opponents who push back. Dirk learned that speaking up did not take anything away from his game. It sharpened it. They kept intersecting in the early 2000s when both were carrying massive loads. Garnett's Timberwolves leaned on him for everything. Elbow touches, defensive quarterbacking, glass control, late clock creation. Dirk's Mavericks asked for buckets in every flavor and rebounds enough to stabilize small ball groups. The first-round series in 2002 and 2003 showed the difference in supporting casts as much as stars. Dallas had more shooting, more handlers, more counters. Minnesota had KG playing perfect basketball and still looking up at the scoreboard. Those spring losses hardened the edge on Garnett's side and taught Dirk how to beat pressure without speeding up. The contrast in styles was a seminar. Garnett guarded like a conductor. He called out actions, shaded to nail help, and recovered to contests with length that swallowed second guesses. He wanted to beat you physically and mentally. Dirk answered with patience and footwork. Catch at 18, jab until the hips lean, one dribble to balance, rise into the release, no fingertip can touch. If KG cut off the middle, Dirk pivoted baseline. If KG fronted or sat on the fade, Dirk slipped the screen and trusted the pass. It was not bully ball. It was precision against intensity. There was real annoyance at times. Garnett did not enjoy Dirk's quiet jabs and little smirks after makes. Dirk did not enjoy the running commentary, the claps, and the bumps after the whistle. That is why their exchanges felt different from the Spurs series. San Antonio was clinical. Minnesota was emotional. You could hear it and see it. Every elbow touch had a sentence attached to it. Every make earned a reply. As their careers evolved, so did the relationship. Garnett moved to Boston and won big. Dirk endured the 2007 collapse, retooled his body and his game, and finished the job in 2011. When they talked about each other later, the tone sounded like people who had been through the same fire from opposite sides. KG acknowledged Dirk's scoring craft as the thing he had to solve most. Dirk credited Garnett for making him stand his ground and use his voice. The original irritation had boiled down to something simpler. Two workers recognized another worker. What makes this one stick is not a single flagrant or viral clip. It is accumulation. Years of run-ins, years of talk, years of a rival trying to pull you out of your comfort zone and you refusing to leave it. That one line in Dallas did not end the noise. It gave Dirk a way to live with it. After that, the game felt different. He could be the calm scorer and the guy who answered a shove with a sentence and a bucket. Now, let's go to the loudest matchup of Dirk's career. Steven Jackson and the We Believe Warriors.
Say, for a perfect example, Dirk is one of the best ever, but game one, we knew we had him.
Golden State did not just upset Dallas in 2007. It poked every nerve the Mavericks had, and Jackson pressed that button again and again. He took primary stretches on Dirk, crowded his handle, swiped on the gather, and met fades at the release point. On the other end, he spaced to the corners, trailed in transition, and hit big threes that turned Oracle into a storm. The series fed on energy, and Jackson kept feeding it. Game plans mattered less than feel in that matchup. Don Nelson junked up the floor with switching lineups and early traps. Dallas never found consistent rhythm. Jackson thrived in the chaos, sliding between positions and talking enough to make each stop feel heavier. He did not need to shut Dirk out to win the minutes. He needed to stack possessions where Dirk caught a foot farther out, took an extra dribble, or felt hands where he expected air. That is how confidence erodes in a week. There were flashpoints that still get replayed. Jackson's ejection in Dallas, the barrage of threes in Oakland, the celebrations that bordered on taunting, and the crowd that rewarded every bit of it. In a 6-game series, there were probably 60 little moments that annoyed Dirk. He had been the league's most reliable closer all year. Against the Warriors, he had to solve 5 problems before he even got to his spots. Jackson was the face of that problem because he combined length, strength, timing, and volume. The residue lasted. Years later, when Jackson had moved on, the talk kept coming. A regular season night with Milwaukee turned into more chirping from the bench, and Dirk finally answered into a microphone instead of a huddle. He brushed off the noise and pointed back to the work. That response fit him. He would rather solve a heckler with a shot than a paragraph. Let's talk about another player turned podcaster and see Dirk's beef with Kenyon Martin.
Kenyon Martin bodying Nowitzki, trying to deny the catch, and a foul.
Game 1 of the 2009 West semifinals turned hostile fast. Barely 6 minutes in, Kenyon Martin shoved Dirk Nowitzki on a baseline drive, sending him to the floor. The league later hit Martin with a $25,000 fine for the shove, which only hardened the mood of a series Denver would go on to control. Denver's staff then poked at Dirk from the microphones. Nuggets executive Rex Chapman called him a very good actor, framing the fall as embellishment rather than force. Dirk's answer was dry as dust. I didn't know Rex Chapman was still alive. He followed with a straight read of the play and left it there. It was classic Nowitzki, more deadpan than dramatic. On the floor, Martin leaned into his strengths, leverage, hands, and contact that made every catch feel crowded. He bodied Dirk on first touch, sat on the middle, and tried to funnel drives into quick help from Nene or a guard digging down. The goal wasn't to erase shots, it was to shift them a few inches off rhythm. Across 5 games, that approach, plus Denver's length and pace, kept Dallas chasing. The Nuggets took the series 4-1. The shove and actor sequence became the postcard for that matchup because it captured both layers, the physical edge and the chirp that followed. Dallas felt the push cross the line. Denver treated it as playoff hardness. Dirk refused to act rattled in interviews and kept answering with the same diet of jab steps, shoulder bumps, and one-leg fades. The possession stayed bruising, and so did the commentary. There was noise around the series. More hard fouls, more elbows, and even separate headlines involving Denver's perimeter guys later that spring. But the Martin clash is the piece people remember when they revisit 2009. It started with a shove. It moved to a press scrum. And from there, it lived in the spaces where Kenyon Martin liked to operate, between strength, intimidation, and the kind of contact that makes a great scorer think for half a second before rising. In that matchup, half a second mattered. Last but not least, here's Dante Jones. Jones was the tone piece in Denver's perimeter defense in 2009. His job was simple and annoying. Make every Maverick feel hands and hips. When the matchup switched to Dirk, he denied entries, sat in his stance, and used little tugs and bumps to push catches farther from the elbows. That 2-foot shift mattered. It forced extra dribbles and let the second defender arrive on time. Dallas fans called it edgy. They were not wrong. Jones played on the line and invited whistles to catch up later. He crowded space on closeouts, slid under shooting pockets, and turned routine off-ball cuts into wrestling matches. The message was clear. Nothing would be easy, and if the officials let it rock for 2 quarters, the offense would fray. His reputation did not come out of nowhere. That spring, he picked up a flagrant for a trip on Kobe Bryant in the next round. The clip traveled because it confirmed what opponents already felt about his approach. He was willing to test boundaries to change rhythm. Against Dallas, that meant leaning on Dirk's legs during post seals, nudging his hip on the spin, and arriving late with a hand to scratch at the ball. As the shot rose, Denver folded all of that into a larger plan. Jones pestered guards. Martin and Nene met Dirk's drives with strength. Help swarmed from the nail. Over 5 games, the stop and bump formula built enough empty trips to swing the series. Jones was not the headline. He was the echo you heard on every possession. If the goal was to wear down a great scorer by stealing half beats all night, he did his part. Dirk's feuds came from pressure, pride, and plays that crossed the line. If this breakdown hit the spot, support the channel and share it. Tell me which rivalry you want next, and we'll dig into the film and the stories that made it burn.